Hey fellow engineers, it's me, Mario. And today we're gonna talk about the best of the best. France. France. France is the best nation in Barrage by a considerable margin, in my opinion, at this point. There are many reasons because that is true, but I don't think that any good, competitive, whatever you want to call them, Barrage player or expert will say the contrary. It's pretty easy to see it after a few games, but after hundreds of games, it's gonna be evident how this nation is head and shoulders above all the other nations. It doesn't mean that that by itself should make it so that you're gonna pick it earlier than the other nations, just because to me the operative is most of the time more important. But but France is probably the only nation that I can pick because of the nation and not because the operative. So sometimes it's the opposite. Like I can see myself not picking a Netherlands combo just because of Netherlands, as I can see myself picking a France combo just because of France and not because of the operative. We'll dive a bit into that later on. As always with these nation ranking videos, I'm just gonna talk about the ranking first. So France is above all, then there's a gap, then Italy and USA are kinda on the same level to me, then there's a gap, there's Germany, and then a big gap, and there's the Netherlands. That's my personal rankings right now as of November 2024. So that's it. Why is France this strong? Well, we'll not start with that. We will start by talking about its weaknesses, which are not many. So basically, the only weakness that France has got, in my opinion, is that the elevation line is not ideal. You rarely want to go for double elevation early on just because of the 3 victory points. But even that, you might see this income over here and you might see that that is not like a very big weakness, since even going for 2 bases in 4 elevations, which is something you could go for in some games when you start with elevation 1, you're gonna unlock 5 victory points and 2 max of income, which is probably comparable to the amazing income you can get with 4 bases and 2 elevations with Germany, which is 3 victory points, 2 max. And yes, you're gonna get 3 coins instead of 2 more points, which is for sure better in the early game, but still you can go for that. I think that's it. I don't think there's any other weakness that France has got. So this should tell you a lot about how strong this faction can be. So, the strengths. Let's start with the main board and with the income, since we've already talked a bit about elevations. The mech under the second base is just amazing because it makes it so that going for a base rush is very, very easy with France. Normally, a problem you can have with when you're going for a base rush is that you need more mechs because, of course, you can maybe count on 2 bases in the plains, but the other 2 bases have to be probably in the hills and maybe even on the mountains. So unless you're playing with Adler, which is a very good operative, of course, you have to rely on buying or getting mechs in other ways. But getting mechs in ways other than buying them, it's not easy where you're going for a base rush because you're not gonna build conduits, and most of the time you're gonna build 2 elevations instead of powerhouses. So all that said, it's not that easy to go for a base rush with all the factions. It can work. We've seen it when we talked a bit about USA. But with France, it's way easier just because getting the extra brown max make it so that it's very easy to go for 2 bases in the plains and then the round after 2 bases in the hills. And bam, you got yourself a 1 mech and 2 spins. Income on the second round. Actually, France is, I reckon, I cannot be sure, is the first nation for which the base rush became well known. Just because it's so easy to pull it off and it's so strong when you do so. Another minor weakness you can say about France is that it doesn't have a spin on the 3 second column incomes, but it's not that relevant when you get the mech and the 3 coins, honestly. And another small weakness, maybe? It depends. It can be seen as a weakness. It's one of the 2 nations, along with Italy, that that's not in the game, that doesn't get drops. So you don't get any extra water when playing with friends. So that can actually be another weakness. So yeah, let's say that the second elevation bonus is not that great, and you cannot get drops in the game. That's it. That's it, I promise. No more weaknesses. I don't think so, at least. That said, again, this line is amazing, and it leads itself very easily to go for a base rush, but you don't have to, because of course the mech is also probably the best income you can get in the game early on, and even if you don't go for a base rush but just for 2 bases, you already unlocked the best income possible. The line that is very funny is the conduit line. I like it a lot. I like a lot the fact that you unlock the 3 coins early on. I know many players say that it's a bit redundant because most of the time you're gonna unlock early on the second conduit thanks to the conduit 1 tile, so you're gonna get coins on top of coins, which might mean that you get too many coins. Did I say coins once or twice? I did, I think. But it's still pretty good. You cannot have too many coins, in my opinion, in Barrage. You can spam bases on the costly spots. You can get more advanced tiles. So, in my opinion, that's not a problem. It's not an issue. But the most funny one is that the 4 energy income under the 4th conduit is just perfect for the conduit line. As we're going to see, it's not great when, like in Italy, it's under the 4th elevation, but under the 4th conduit, it's very, very, very well welcome, because when you go for a conduit rush, or just for many conduits, because you start with powerhouses, and more on powerhouses soon, and conduits, all you want at some point is a way to get more energy, because probably you've been relying a bit on the neutral dams, and while you're trying to pass from a neutral base, neutral dams kind of game to a game where you produce a lot with your elevated dams later on, when you can go for initial contracts, etc. You want a way to bridge that gap, and getting 4 energy makes it so that it's very easy. So you can produce for just a tiny amount of energy and then still reap the rewards of the round bonuses. So France is just that good. Like, again, these 4 extra shifts is not an amazing income, but it's just perfect under the 4th conduit. And then we left the best for the last. You get this amazing power. This is just hands down the best powerhouse power in the game. It's not even close to my understanding. Some people might argue that like Germany's one is pretty good, but I mean, this one is just the best. It will let you do so many things. So you can produce for little and still get a very strong economic boost to your overall game, just because you can fulfill like free structure contracts easier, or free max contracts easier, free spins, everything is just that good. It works really well again with the 4th conduit, just because you get more extra shifts, but so you can produce for not much and still get both the points from the round bonus tile and the stuff that you can get from the contract. It combos so well with the extra energy that all the powerhouses will give you, because you're gonna get +3, which means that it's going to basically be a +6 for all the contracts, which makes it so that rushing powerhouses for France is amazing. Like, it lets you contest national contracts for ease, even when the other players are not truly expecting it. And it works so well with tiles like, of course, Powerhouse 1 and Powerhouse 2, just because you unlock the power immediately when you're producing, and it will let you get the best contract for ease. So, this one is just an amazing power. Like, you need to play 1 or 2 games just to see how incredibly strong it is. So I won't delve too deep into it. So with that said about all the strengths of France, let's think about the gameplay. So I think that France can work best with some plans, but you always have to remind that France is also very flexible. It's both very powerful and very flexible. The powerful part comes from having a very strong power over here and strong lines, but the flexibility comes from not having a stinky line. Like, again, if you go for 4 elevation fast enough and 2 bases, you're gonna get yourself a 2 max income, which is more than most nations can get, Germany aside. So, I mean, you can do pretty much everything. But in my opinion, the strategies that work the best is just a strategy that implies building a lot of bases and a lot of powerhouses, producing not for much, but using the power from the powerhouses, or a lot of conduits and a lot of powerhouses and at least 2 bases. More realistically, you're probably going to build 2 full lines at some point, and again, even if you go for 2 bases and 4 elevations fast enough, you're still gonna have an awesome game. So you can do pretty much everything that you want, but just remember that powerhouses are going to be very strong and they don't go as well with elevation. So most of the time, if you have to favor one of these 2 structures, since they both require grays and like Powerhouse 1 and Powerhouse 2 tiles, they tax you heavy on grays, you should pretty much always go for many powerhouses. And many powerhouses and bases spamming works really well. So I would say that any plan that involves bases and powerhouses is going to be good, but conduits can also be pretty decent in most games. So it looks like you can do pretty much whatever you want with France, let's just say that. As per the operatives, it doesn't really combo with Luciani, which is one of the worst operative, as you might know, because you're gonna get the discount from the 3rd powerhouses only on one of the 2 contracts or more contracts that you're gonna fulfill. That was necessary, otherwise this combo would just like be totally crazy. It doesn't combo that well with Del Monte once again, because you don't really want to pile up on elevation most of the times. Again, if you get elevation 1, then go for it and it's gonna be still good. Well, of course it's gonna work with Leslie, who doesn't, and with Batista is okay, but to just point out some of the ones you can work really well with, Adler is amazing, just because if you go for a base rush or just go for bases, you can always get grays. So Adler is very good because it lets you focus more on grays instead of browns, just because you're not gonna need as many browns to go for bases in higher spots. So it works really well with that. It can work pretty well with Jill, once again, because you can go for powerhouses and conduits. Honestly, I think it just works pretty well with everybody. It works really well with Fizzler, of course, just because you can have a game plan that revolves around getting many powerhouses and conduits and still have Fizzler be relevant in the late game. Fizzler normally is an early game beast. I mean, I love Fizzler. I think it's a very good operative. You just need to skew all of your game plan around him. And with France, it's very easy to do so without sacrificing much. Because again, if you go for powerhouses, Fizzler is going to be very relevant even in the late game. Like, if you produce with 1 drop from a level 1 conduit, you're still gonna get at least 5 energy, and you can fulfill a level 8 contract. And all the level 8 contracts are very good for your economy. Like, what I wanted to say is, most of the contracts that are good for your economy gets up to 8 and no further. So Fizzler is still very good to let you fulfill those contracts, even in the 3rd or even the 4th round sometimes. So Fizzler is very good with France too. Out of my head, I don't think there's any other that combo so well, so I just think that I'm gonna finish this video now. France is the best nation. Just deal with it and enjoy it whenever you can pick it. That's it. Alright? Barrage out. See you next time. Bye bye.